It only took me a year, but I finally 100% completed the latest installment of the LEGO Star Wars video game franchise. The complete saga was my childhood, so for good measure, I went ahead and 100% completed that game as well. The Skywalker Saga was first announced in 2019, set for a 2020 release. However, the game went through a ton of delays, mostly because of the pandemic. But finally, on April 5th, 2022, the game arrived. The question is, was it worth the 3-year wait from the announcement? Let's find out. Story-wise, yes, it was worth the wait. The story is much more fleshed out than it is in the complete saga, where the cutscenes got the idea across but did kind of miss essential elements due to the mumbling. And also the open world in the Skywalker Saga allows for a more fleshed out story without losing the classic LEGO slapstick. The best example of a level being upgraded is 100% the boss fight against General Grievous in episode 3. The original one is just kinda lousy and boring, with Grievous just jumping away and jumping back in a small area that can take you 5 minutes to do the level. But the new one is so much more accurate and detailed, in line with what was in the movie, and just looks absolutely gorgeous. Of course, it also doesn't help that the original level was designed before episode 3 even released, but it is probably the biggest upgrade due to the film coming out and being out for almost 15 years now. The vehicle levels are also a massive upgrade compared to the original game, in my opinion. Some could do with ideally not being on rails, like the Zam Wessel chase at the start of Attack of the Clones, but levels like the pod race are upgrades in some ways. I loved the first person perspective of it until it hindered free play, but we'll talk about that later. Overall, the ship levels are much nicer in this new game. They feel so much smoother. The voice acting is fantastic. May have done away with mumble mode as the key audio in cutscenes, but the voice acting is just as funny. Not to mention classic LEGO comedy is sprinkled throughout, such as Qui-Gon hitting his head to the Imperial March. The game is still full of humour and still so fun to play through. Plus, there is still a choice for mumble mode, which is great, and I love that they got some of the Clone Wars actors to reprise their roles in this game. Let's get the obvious out of the way in terms of collectibles. Mini-kits are, of course, still a thing, except there are now 5 to find instead of 10. Most are easy to find, with a couple of challenging ones with hints for each one available to buy. These unlock microfighter ships that you could actually fly around in instead of full-size ships, which is kinda cute. True Jedi is, of course, still a thing. It's now been given an updated look, split into 3 parts, each one completed, giving you a Kyber brick, which is the substitute for gold bricks, feeling more appropriate for a Star Wars game, as that is what lightsabers are made out of. Kyber. Or the crystal inside is what powers a lightsaber, is actually more accurate. There are almost 1,200 of them to collect, which is a lot, but we'll talk about them in open worlds because that's where most of them are found. Each level offers 6 to be collected, 1 for completing the level, 1 for completing all 3 level challenges, which were a new addition, 1 for finding all the mini kits, and finally 3 for completing True Jedi, 1 for each section that you complete. They could be used to upgrade different character classes, which we will be talking about next. I personally do think this new collectible system was worth the wait, as was the new levels. It's different and unique, and before I forget, data cards were used instead of red bricks for the extras. We'll talk more about those later and where to find them. While you always needed different types of characters to complete LEGO games, the character menu organised it in such a way that it was messy and unorganised. The Skywalker Saga introduces actual classes for the characters for you to easily find your favourites, and they are Hero, Jedi, Villain, Dark Side, Scoundrel, Scavenger, Astromech, Protocol Droid, Bounty Hunter, and the most useless one, Extras. That one really just holds characters who don't have any special abilities, like Anakin's mother, Shmi. Each class, much like the original game, can access certain panels, only do certain things, and all play a part in 100% completing the game. Except Extras, I don't think I used a single one of them. Each class has a set of abilities that can be upgraded, including skips on panels and higher damage attacks. These upgrades are bought using the Kyber bricks, and I would say they are worth the wait. The updated menu just makes it so much more easier to find the characters that you want with your own roster at the top. Then there's the beloved Extras, classic feature in LEGO games. However, as mentioned earlier, Gone are the days of the red brick. They are now found as data cards and can be bought in the main menu. And I'll be honest, they're mixed. Mumble mode is the only one that's free, and because the cutscenes aren't built around it, it can feel a little off in them. However, it's great otherwise. You have the classic 2, 4, 6, 8 and 10 multipliers, which are super useful when needing to get some studs and completing true Jedi. Super Gonk Droid and Pod Companion are pretty much useless, but I'll admit, it was nice having some company while playing the game. Galaxy Rave, TV, Retro and Hologram mode I never used, just didn't find them particularly useful or fun in my opinion. However, Gonk Civilians was brilliant, and it made it easier to pick out the characters with quests as they were the only ones not gonks, and honestly, it was just funny seeing everyone gonks. Baguette lightsabers, comedy weapons and pew pew were fun to use and was definitely some of that classic LEGO humour. Universal Translator is great too because it means I don't have to keep switching to C-3PO, and I don't want to keep switching to C-3PO, so it really helped out. And finally, rainbow effects, big head mode and cantina music were fine. I was indifferent to them. Overall, I'd say worth the wait for the best ones, but some I could wait for forever and still not need them. Okay, so the combat. I'm happy with the combat. It's still fairly basic because, at its core, it's a kid's game, but the ability to string combos and get locked into a lightsaber button mashing contest is fun, I will admit. Blaster Fire is the same, but the melee upgrade was 100% worth the wait. Not much else to say, to be honest. Free play is a bit of a letdown. Some levels don't require it, and some levels you don't even need it to true Jedi level or complete everything. It was a huge disappointment to find out I didn't need it half the time, and it really annoyed me. But there are plenty of levels that it is needed, so the feature is still needed in the game. The biggest change to show how far games have come is the beautiful open worlds this game has. You can explore your favourite planets from the Star Wars saga. My personal favourites to run around were Kamino, Kashyyyk and Bespin. They're all so beautifully detailed with so much love put into them. And the open worlds are where you will find your data cards, majority of your Kyber bricks, as well as vehicles and characters through side missions. Each planet is also divided into their sectors from the franchise in the galaxy map. Each planet also has a space zone for you to fly around in and encounter capital ships to take over and unlock, which is always a ton of fun. The Kyber bricks that can be found scattered around planets are almostly easy to find, and if you can't find them, there are hints for each and every one in the menu available for purchase. The biggest flaw is that it is very tedious to get all of them, but every now and again you're hit with a cool reference like R2KT and it keeps you going. And I actually saw R2KT at Celebration in April, and if you don't know the story behind the pink droid, please do look it up, it's quite a touching one. Overall, I would say that the gorgeous open worlds were 100% worth the wait. They were incredible to explore and full of so much love for the Star Wars galaxy. And after you've grinded and invested hours of your time, what is the 100% reward? You pull a lever in the Yavin Celebration room and get studs you no longer need. But I don't really know what else they could do, so I suppose it's okay. Still wasn't really something that was worth the wait for me. However, it did feel good to 100% complete a LEGO game, and there has to be something, and I feel like this is fine. And finally, the DLC packs. They're extremely cool, but at the same time extremely lacking. As of this recording, we've only received character packs. My favourites personally are the Mandalorian ones, but it's still cool to get characters like Death Troopers and Captain Rex that weren't in the original mainline films. Despite this, they are missing bonus levels from the Clone Wars or the Mandalorian. The Season 7 and Season 2 finales of those respective shows would make excellent LEGO levels, and I hope they do them at some point before or after they work on their next LEGO game. To conclude this video, I would say that LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga was 100% worth the wait. It is an absolutely gorgeous upgrade from the original game in every aspect, full of tons of references to not just Star Wars but all of media, and of course it is a love letter to the galaxy far, far away, the good, the bad and the sequels. All jokes aside, I love playing this game and do think it is better than the complete saga, and if you put nostalgia aside. If you haven't picked up this game, I would recommend playing it and also still playing the complete saga because they're both just great. Both different in their own ways, both have their own merits, and in my 100% professional opinion, I give the game an 8.5 out of 10. May the Force be with you all, always.